Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So this is going to be my review video for Thor Ragnarok. I did see it. I saw it opening night with some friends of mine. You guys know I'm not a Marvel fan, but I did want to see this movie because I wanted to see Tessa Thompson, and I like Thor. Like, I fuck with Thor. I loved the first one. The second one, not so much. I don't know what happened. So I did want to see this one, and it also passes my test of, is there at least one black main character? Tessa Thompson, and also I love Idris Elba as Heimdall. So I did want to see this one. I am going to do this review in the good, the bad, and the ugly format, and it is going to be spoiler-free, so there will be no spoilers. So don't have to worry about that. And if you want to see some review videos that have spoilers, if you go look in my Black Lifestyle, I believe, vlogs playlist, I have two really good reviews in there that go a little bit more in depth that do contain spoilers. So, Thor Ragnarok, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good. I did like it. I didn't hate it. You guys know I hate everything. I fucking hate everything. I'm going to be doing a video soon on, like, how I hate everything and just, like, how I'm feeling right now about, like, art and I include, like, movies and shit in, like, the art category, like, art and media. So I will be doing a video soon on that. But just, I hate everything for the most part, and I find everything to be boring. I didn't hate it. I was entertained. It kind of gave me a vibe of, like, Guardians of the Galaxy meets Lord of the Rings, which is good, I guess, because I liked Guardians of the Galaxy well enough, and I love Lord of the Rings. One of the gripes that I had with Guardians of the Galaxy is also a gripe that I had with Thor Ragnarok, and that's that you walk out of these movies and you're like, I just sat here watching a movie for 2 hours, but I couldn't tell you one thing that happened. Like, I really can't recall the plot. Like, I can't recall what I just watched, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. But I felt like the cast was, like, really, really, really fantastic. Like, I loved the cast. I thought the cast was just generally awesome. I love Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and it's really good to see him back. And I love the way that Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth kind of, like, play off of each other with this, like, brotherly kind of, you know, fucking camaraderie as Thor and Loki. I loved it. I loved it in the first Thor, and I love to see it here. I love Tessa Thompson as an addition to the cast. She was awesome. She had a funny-ass accent. I don't really know what that was supposed to be. I don't know what she was supposed to be channeling with that accent. It was very, like, yes, you have until I finish this drink to talk. Like, you know, like, and you have until I finish this drink to talk. See? Like, some type of weird thing was happening. But her character was really, really great. And her embodiment of the character was cool. Like, her acting was really good. She was very believable. She was very believable as this character. And I've seen Tessa Thompson in a few projects now. I saw her in Selma. I saw her in Creed. She can act. Like, you go, Glen Coco. 2 for you, Tessa Thompson. She can act. Like, I've seen her in a few different roles. She's a pretty good fucking actress, and her embodiment of this character was really good. It's not always like, oh, like, I'm looking at Tessa Thompson, you know? Like, I can see her as this character. And seeing a badass black woman in speculative fiction, you know, especially this kind of setting where she's in space, but she's not painted green, and she's also in this kind of, like, you know, Middle Earth, again, like Lord of the Rings, like, Asgard is, like, it makes me think of Middle Earth. It's, like, that type of setting, and it's like, oh, hey, black woman, that's cool, you know, like, that's cool. She was good. I really enjoyed her. I enjoyed her character. I will say, and this is not, like, a Tessa Thompson specific thing, there were some scenes where, like, similar to my critique of Wonder Woman, it looked like Tessa Thompson was, like, walking down a runway, similar to what I said in Wonder Woman. Like, there's some scenes where I'm just like, what the fuck is she doing? Like, this, like, perfect makeup, and, like, you can tell that there's this emphasis being put on, like, pretty, like this strut, you know, like, rather than getting ready for a fight, which I wouldn't mind if this was like a thing that happened for everybody, you know? Like if Chris Hemsworth is gonna motherfucking, you know, stunt and strut down the Rainbow Bridge and strut down the motherfucking Bifrost before he like fucks some shit up, like, okay, let's go. Like, I want to see Chris Hemsworth motherfucking strut. Like, let's do it. But it's like, it's something specific that they do to these women characters. Again, Wonder Woman and Tessa Thompson's character and Cate Blanchett's character as the goddess of death. You know, there was some strutting that was happening that they have to fucking strut before they kick some ass. And I'm just like, I'm meh on that. Like, let them kick some fucking ass. Like, just let them kick ass. They don't have to strut before they kick ass. Like, and Tessa Thompson, her fight scenes were really, really good. Like, overall, her fight scenes were great. The action scenes and the fight scenes in Thor in general, I would say, were quite good. They were really well choreographed. They looked good. They looked believable. There were some scenes of Tessa Thompson kind of fighting and sliding around and doing some really interesting things that I loved. That scene that we've all seen probably from the trailer where she's like riding on the flying horse with the sword was great. Like, she was great. I loved her. I loved Idris Elba as Heimdall. Love it. I love it. I've loved him as Heimdall since the very first fucking Thor movie. Like, he's fantastic as Heimdall. He's been fantastic since day one. I will always love him as Heimdall. He is the one true Heimdall in my mind. It was truly an inspired casting choice. Whoever cast him from day one in the first Thor, which is interesting because his Heimdall is race bent. So he's like great. He just has this presence as the guardian of the Bifrost that can see everything in the universe. Like, you believe it. His action scenes with his like big sword were fucking fantastic, and you just believe him as this like protector of Asgard and all the 9 realms. And I wish there was more of him. I wish there was more of him throughout like the whole franchise, because he is fucking great. And again, it's great seeing Black people in this type of setting, because especially in this movie, like I said, I'm not going to go too into it because no spoilers, but especially like in this setting of like, you see like Idris Elba, I started to say Idris Heimdall. You see Idris Elba in this setting, and he has like the like the Lord of the Rings cloak, and he has like the dreads and the sword, and again, it's like, oh, wow, look, you know, the cast overall was super interesting. I really enjoyed the cast of this movie overall. It was way more diverse and interesting looking, which I appreciated, especially in because, like, the people of Asgard ended up playing, like, a big role in this movie. And so just in terms of, like, the extras and the people that are playing the Asgardians, way more diverse, way more interesting looking. And it's just like, like, look at that, like, Black folks and East Asians and all type of non-Black POC in this Middle Earth type of setting. Well, Tolkien, it looks like it could work. Because people always love to say that, like, you know, these Middle Earth type of settings are, like, European, Eurocentric, like as if there's no Black people or other persons of color in Europe, which is not true, number one. And number two, it's fictional. It's not, even if it is Eurocentric or European inspired, like, it's not actual, like, Middle Earth is not a real place, like Asgard is not a real place, like, these are places that have, like, dragons and, like, rainbow bridges and, like, Bifrost and, like, all type of shit. So, again, it's just very funny how people can, like, stretch their imaginations, but they just, like, halt at, like, Black people in other POC in these type of settings. So I thought just visually, the visuals of, like, seeing the cast was really, really cool and interesting. Jeff Goldblum was great as the Grandmaster. He was fucking hilarious, and I love him in everything, and he's my best friend in my mind, and he's like 7 feet tall. Did you guys know that? I love him, and I just love him in everything, and I just love him in The Fly, and I love him in Jurassic Park, Chaos Theory, which is the way I motherfucking live. Chaos, bitch, it is chaotic in this mind. And he was great as the Grandmaster. Very, very, very funny. Karl Urban was in it as Scourge. I believe his name is Scourge, who's kind of like a henchman sidekick character to Cate Blanchett's Hela character. And he was fun. He's great. I like Karl Urban too, even though every time I see him, I just think Judge Dredd, or I think Bones from Star Trek. Like, they kept showing him, and I just kept saying to myself, I'm a doctor, not an executioner, which is the pop culture reference. So anyways, moving on. He was good. Cate Blanchett was okay, I guess. I kind of felt like she didn't get to do much, which I'm kind of going to get to a little bit later in my review, but there was a lot of exposition in this movie. Like, a character just, like, shows up, they explain why they're there, and then they go. We, like, move on. There's, like, when I was in school and I was, like, learning about, like, art and, like, media and, like, how to write and stuff like that, there's, like, that saying of, like, show, don't tell. If you have, like, long paragraphs of, like, exposition and, like, dialogue and people explaining, like, and this is why, and these are my motivations, and this and that, like, you should be able to, like, show. People should, like, see from the way that their characters move, the way that they behave, the things, you know, that they say to other characters, you know, the way that they act. We should be able to, like, get their motivation. If they have to, like, continuously give us this dialogue and, like, feed us these explanations and, like, then move on, we're not really seeing them do anything. Like, we're not really seeing them do very much. And that's kind of what happens with her character. It's like, yes, I'm here to be the bad guy. I'm telling you that I'm here to be the bad guy. Here is my brief history on me and why I'm angry. And we're going to move on. And it's like, that little 5 minutes wasn't really enough to really make me care about who this bitch even is. Why she's even, like, I don't care. Like, what, I don't, like, I need more, you know? In my opinion, it's hard to connect with that. So she was kind of meh for me. And again, that's not really her fault. They just really didn't give her shit to work with, you know? Like, they just didn't give her shit to work with. Like, you have to build good conflict. And the conflict was not built, you know? They don't want to build, like for example, in the first Thor, it's probably like, what, 30 to 35 minutes before Thor even, like, lands on Earth. Because we have, like, the whole buildup of, like, Thor and Loki and the fucking king and the mom, Frigga, and you know, we see the relationship between Thor and his brother and the sibling rivalry and how, like, Thor is, like, the golden child and Loki feels like the outcast, even though he has this, like, great relationship with the mom because they, like, both do the magic. And we see how, like, we see they go to, like, fuck with the frost giants, and then we see, like, Thor have the fight with his father, and he's like, nigga, you old, you dying anyway, like, your way of life is going out, like, how about you just die and get it over with, and, you know, and then he, like, calls him, like, a cruel child, a spoiled brat, and he, like, takes Mjolnir from him, and he, like, sends him, like, mad shit happens in the first Thor. And if y'all have not seen the first Thor, do not be complaining about no spoilers, because that movie came out, like, 12 years ago. Mad shit happens before he even, like, ends up on Earth and gets, like, hit by the truck that, like, Jane is, and Olivia, what's her name, are, like, driving. It's not like the movie starts with him getting fucking hit by the truck and he just explains, and this is why I'm here. Like, we literally see it play out. That's building good conflict. And, like, with these movies that they're coming out with now, which, again, I'm going to get to a little bit more further on in my review, they don't want to build. They don't want to build. They just want to, like, throw some shit up on the screen and, like, and let's go, you know? Chris Hemsworth is still great as Thor. I clearly loved the first Thor movie. I felt like it had a really fun, interesting, quirky vibe to it. Again, I thought the pacing was really good. The plot build up, you know, all that. And Chris Hemsworth continues to make Thor a character that I like. Like, Thor is a really likable character. And also the humor has always kind of been there in these Thor films, except Dark World, which, again, I don't know what was happening there, but there's always been a really interesting, fun sense of humor in these films, and I've just always enjoyed, like, I really enjoyed the first Thor. Now, I'm going to kind of use that to segue into the bad. The humor, Thor has always had its own distinct sense of humor, and Chris Hemsworth has always done something really kind of fun with Thor, like that scene in the first movie where he's like, I love this drink, smash a glass on the floor, bring me another one, you know? This Thor Ragnarok, however, there were a lot of jokes in this movie. It was like joke after joke after joke after joke, jokey joke, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I feel like that's something we've seen a lot in these Marvel movies. You know, everybody loves Tony Stark, for example. Everybody loves, and I feel like I've said this in another video talking about Spider-Man, everybody loves Tony Stark. So now every iteration of any type of, like, snarky character, it's like Spider-Man by way of Tony Stark with the snark and the jokes and the this and the that. Guardians of the Galaxy made a shitload of money. So now every movie has these, like, Guardians of the Galaxy type of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know, kind of humor. There's a lot of shoehorning in of that Guardians of the Galaxy humor, that Deadpool type of humor, which you guys know I did not like Deadpool at all. I did not like Deadpool at all. I don't like that white fucking frat boy humor, you know? Like in this movie, Thor, this is not a spoiler, all right? There's a Uranus joke, because, you know, they're out in space. Uranus. Ha ha ha, Uranus. You know, like there's a Uranus joke. And that's that Deadpool kind of Guardians of the Galaxy type of humor, which I feel like is not really that Thor type of humor. Like, and Thor humor has also been very physical, like very physical. Like again, like he's smashing the glass and he's like this big dude and he's like knocking shit over, you know. Let Thor have its own sense of humor. Again, which is like a little bit more weird and a little bit more physical and a little bit less fucking frat boy corny. Everything doesn't have to be Deadpool. Everything doesn't have to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything doesn't have to be Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. Like, just because, you know, those two movies, Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy, made a shitload of money, just because everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I love Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I also love him as Sherlock Holmes. I wish Marvel would release him from this contract that he signed in blood with them so we could get motherfucking Sherlock Holmes 3. Because it's a shadowy game. Pop culture reference. Keep moving on. The humor was a bit off. There was also a lot of intense branding, in my opinion. A lot of it felt like set up for like Disney theme park rides. Like whole 5-minute scenes of like moving chairs going down tunnels. Like, okay, this is gonna be a Magic Mountain ride. Like I've been to Epcot. Like this is clearly gonna be an Epcot ride. Like, you know, very intense, like zooming in on items, you know, like things that you know are gonna be sold. Like we just spent a whole 10 seconds like looking at an orange scepter or looking at a pair of glasses or, you know, shit like that. Very like Michael Bay. You guys know Michael Bay. He's like super into branding. Like Michael Bay will like zoom through a car window to like the Prada on the glasses or like Dodge Charger. You know, he's like very into branding. So it was very like Michael Bay meets like Disney branding, Disney World theme park rides, you know, like if you watch CinemaSins, every single time they review a Michael Bay film, they literally count the number of branded items in each scene. And like in Thor, there's a scene where It's a Small World After All, It's a Small World After All is literally playing in the background. Like, okay, branding 101, we got it. It's a Disney property. Like, it's a Disney property. Okay, we get it. I don't have to be beat over the head with this, like, branding, bitch. Branding. Disney. This is going to be a theme park ride. All of these items that you're looking at in this scene are going to be for sale. That's capitalism, right? Capitalism. The costumes are still cheesy. You guys know that I think that Marvel movies post Phase 1 are fucking ugly as fuck and really cheesy looking. I don't think that they're shot well. The cinematography is really ugly. Cinematography in this movie was a little bit better, especially the Middle-earth Asgard scenes. The space Guardians of the Galaxy scenes, not so much. There was a lot of CGI. I don't know why Marvel can't afford to get some better CGI. Like, there's literally scenes where it just looks like people, like, in front of a green screen, like it's 1998. I don't think these movies age well. This movie's probably not going to age well. Everything looks like Batman and Robin, like everything. Thor, it's a little more deliberate because Thor is kind of deliberately kind of like cheesy, like 80s cheese, you know? Like the Grandmaster costume and makeup, for example, was like really bad. But okay, like he's supposed to be like a cheesy, kind of like lunatic, kind of like hedonistic, like, you know, like very decadent and like I got it. It's still ugly, but I got it. But there's like other stuff that's cheesy. Like it's bad. Like it looks like Batman and Robin. Like it's bad. Again, there was a lot of CGI, a lot of bad CGI, a lot of green screens. A lot of Marvel movies are just ugly. They're just ugly movies. Like there are scenes that I can think are nice, but like overall the films are just not aesthetically pleasing to me for my visual palette or whatever. So speaking of ugly, let's get into the ugly movies. Let's get into the ugly. This is the biggest gripe that I had with this movie. this is the biggest gripe that I have with pretty much every Marvel movie post Phase 1, as I've mentioned in Guardians of the Galaxy. There is no plot. Like, as far as the plot goes in these movies, I mean, and really even not, because if you guys remember, I said the same thing about Mad Max. I said the same thing about Deadpool. These movies have no plot. The movies are just cobbled together on, like, cool shit to look at, you know, and, like, great, with Mad Max, it was, like, great technical special effects, and with Deadpool, it was, like, people thought it was so funny, so it was, like, resting on the back of the jokes and shit. And with these, like, Marvel movies, Marvel really specializes in making 2-hour-long movies with no plot, that they basically make entire movies out of branding, out of Easter eggs, cameos, references to other movies, and, like, post-credit scenes. It's not an actual movie with a plot for you to, like, watch and follow and, like, see what these kids... No, it's just, like, some shit, like, thrown up on the screen, like, for you to watch. Like, it's more of a visceral experience, like, ooh, Stan Lee, you know, than a movie with a plot. Like I was saying earlier, they don't build plot, they don't build relationships, they don't build conflict, they just kind of tell you what's going on. They don't build anything in order for it to connect with you, the audience, or for you to, like, understand even what you're watching. They just kind of like have this shit playing on the screen, and then they kind of just, like, have, like, some background shit telling you, like, and this is what you're watching, like, you know, and wait for it, Infinity Stone, wait for it, Stan Lee, wait for it, Disney, It's a Small World after all, but there's no plot, like, there's no shit actually fucking happening, like, that's really their specialty. Like, they've made a whole market out of, like, 2-hour-long movies where shit doesn't happen, like, where there's no fucking plot. Like, in Thor, there's a scene where we see that Loki has gotten into, like, a certain situation, but we have no idea how he got there. We have no idea how he got there. Right? He literally just, like, says to us, you know, like, there's a line of dialogue where he says, like, I'm in this situation, I've been here for weeks, and then we, like, move forward. We, like, move forward to the next scene. It's like, what? Like, you're not going to give me any backstory, you're not going to give me any plot on this, like, that is film, in my opinion. Like, that is what moves your cinematic vehicle forward. These characters that are moving through this story and showing us how they're moving through this story and showing us why they're moving through this story and what's going on and what are the relationships that they have to what's going on and what are the relationships that they have to each other and, like, why are these things happening? There's none of that. It's just shit happening, and then we're on to the next scene, and shit's happening, and we're on to the next scene. Like, they don't want to do that. Like, they don't want to build. They don't want to build conflict. They don't want to build plot. They just want to drop characters in situations with no understanding of what's going on and with zero connection to any plot whatsoever. Again, like, just there is no plot, period. And since there's no plot, the film feels very disjointed. It felt like several different movies at various parts. Again, Guardians of the Galaxy meets Lord of the Rings with some leftover set pieces from Star Wars thrown in because motherfucking Disney, bitch, Disney. And it was just like, I don't know what was going on. Like, the pacing was way off. Things were just fucking happening, you know. Major plot points would be covered, like, something really big would happen, but then, like, nobody would really recognize that something major just happened. It was just like, oh, something happened, like, moving on to the next thing, or the major thing that happened would be covered up with a joke, because jokes, which you guys will recall was also a gripe that I had with It. In one scene in It, somebody's being eaten. In the next scene, now they're splashing around in the quarry. Ha 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 ha. Like, no, like, there's no gravity given to what happened in the scene before. Like, there's no understanding of, like, why did that scene just happen? Like, I don't know if this is an editing issue. I don't know if it's just me. You guys know I fucking hate everything. Like I said, I will be doing, like, a video on that soon. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's, like, the scenes in the movies be feeling motherfucking chopped and screwed as hell. And I know that it did have editing issues, and I don't know, like, if there was any backstory on the editing in Thor Ragnarok, but, like, so much shit just feels like chopped and screwed, like, and copy pasted together. And since there is no plot, it doesn't matter. If there's no plot, if there's no point A to point B, it doesn't matter, right? You could jam master J these motherfucking scenes. They can go anywhere because there is no plot. There's, like, it doesn't matter. And that's how I feel watching these movies. And that was how I felt watching Thor. Like, I'm just watching, like, an assemblance of Marvel Easter eggs and references and cameos up on a screen, you know? And I also keep saying that, like, none of these Marvel movies have weight. Like, and I get it. It's like, it's just entertainment. Like, it's just meant to entertain. And I know tons of people are going to be entertained. And I'm just not a fan. Like, it's just amusement park fluff. Again, they don't build conflict. They don't build relationships. They don't tell us why anything is important. They mix and match the scenes. Why should I care about anything that's happening in these movies, aside from the fact that, like, I personally like Thor, or, like, I personally like this particular cast or something like that. Like, it's cool for what it is, I guess. Like, it's cool to be entertained. And I didn't hate the movie, but just like I've said before, like, post Phase 1, I feel like Marvel makes loud, stupid movies for loud, stupid audiences. And that's just how I feel about that. And I also feel like this motherfucking interconnected universe shit is a lot. Like, it's getting to the point, Marvel essentially does not make standalone movies, which means you cannot see any of their movies as a casual moviegoer, which is kind of fucking lame. Like, there's this assumption that you've seen all of the movies, which in my opinion is a bit arrogant on the part of the filmmaker and on the part of Marvel as this, like, cinematic, like, house or whatever. Like, it's just expected that you're gonna watch all 3,700,000 of these fucking movies. But, like, what if I'm a Thor fan and I just want to watch Thor? And you are making Thor movies. Like, this is the third Thor movie. Thor Ragnarok, not motherfucking Avengers Ragnarok. Thor. What if I am a Thor fan and I just want to watch Thor? I can't do that because they don't make a movie out of a Thor plot. They make a movie out of Avengers Easter eggs and motherfucking Stan Lee cameos. You know, they just really drop you in the middle of, like, hardcore Age of Ultron references. And it's like, bitch, I didn't see Age of Ultron. And, like, again, like, that's that capitalism. Like, you just want to sell me. You want to sell me on this, like, branding. And you want to, like, sell me on, like, going to watch all these motherfucking movies. Like, no, you can't make me watch all these movies. Like, I don't like Avengers, but I like Thor. I shouldn't necessarily have to watch Avengers to understand something referenced in Thor. Like, that's the beauty of characters being in a group, but still having their own individual comics and having their own individual films. Otherwise, just stop making standalone films and just make Avengers. Just, like, make the whole fucking franchise be Avengers. Like, I don't care for it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it. And you guys know, I did like Phase 1. Like, Iron Man is probably one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. Thor, I loved the first Thor. That is probably maybe also one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. Like, and part of why I liked it was because it was Phase 1. There was no fallback. There were no references. There were no Easter. I mean, and I love a good reference. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a fucking, you guys know I have a pop culture reference for everything. Like, I'm a fucking J.J. Abrams fan. Like, Celestial makes my stomach explode with happy. Like, I love a good pop culture reference. But your work should be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And in Phase 1, everything had to stand on its own 2 feet. Like, the first Thor had to stand on its own 2 feet. The first Iron Man had to stand on its own 2 feet. There was no fallback. There were no references. And the movies are just so lazy now. No plot, no weight, no character development, no nothing. Ugly-ass design, ugly-ass fucking costumes. Just, again, Marvel is basically comprising entire movies out of Easter eggs and references to previous movies. Like, this is the whole strategy. Like, movies that no longer have to stand on their own 2 feet anymore because they're part of this bigger interconnected universe. And I just feel like that's lazy, and it's like shit fucking filmmaking. It's shit filmmaking. You can't make a whole entire movie out of, like, Easter eggs and Disney branding and cameos and Avengers references and post-scene credits and dumbass jokes and 80s music. Fucking that song was played at least 3 or 4 times in Thor Ragnarok. Okay, people love the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. We got it. Like, it's just a bunch of cobbled together shit thrown in a blender and then thrown up on the screen. And it's disappointing because I like Thor as a character and I like what Chris Hemsworth does with him. So again, at least I was still somewhat entertained, but that's just because I like Thor. Like, I liked the casting, you know, like, and it's a shame because, like, what could have been done with this cast, you know? Like, I love Tessa Thompson. I love Jeff Goldblum. I love Karl Urban. I love Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I love Idris Elba as Heimdall, you know? Like, even Cate Blanchett, who, again, didn't have shit to work with. What could have been done with this really great, interesting cast if they actually had a movie and not a blender filled with references vomited up on a screen for me to sit there and watch for 2 hours plus, because, of course, there was a post credit scene, and then a post credit scene, and then a post credit scene. You know, like, these movies are not for me. And I actually somewhat enjoyed this one. So I have to say that I do have high hopes for Black Panther because Black Panther will be a standalone film. It will be a first of film. So kind of like the phase 1, they will be forced to give this movie a plot. We're going to see what happens. Again, I saw Thor Ragnarok strictly because I do like Thor and I did want to see Tessa Thompson and I did want to see Idris Elba. If it wasn't for them, bitch, I don't know. Will I be seeing any Avengers movies? Hell to the nah. Will I be seeing any Spider-Man movie? No. Will I be seeing? No, don't even ask. No. I will only be seeing them if... No, I probably won't be seeing them. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's my review, Thor Ragnarok. Have you guys seen it yet? It just came out. So, spoiler free. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Poop as always. See you guys next time. Peace.